This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose.
Planet or point is at the end or the very beginning of a sign and you're not sure about your birth time, it could be in either or, the next zodiac sign or the one before it. But if it's kind of in the middle, then you can be sure that it's stayed at least in that sign for that particular date of birth.
Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. Get ready to hear moments that will help you to see the world differently and inspire you to become the happiest, healthiest, and kindest version of you. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Australia's very own celebrity astrologer, Natasha Weber, or as many know her as AstroTash. Natasha has built an incredible career helping people understand themselves and their purpose through astrology. And she's on a mission to take astrology mainstream. She's the resident astrologer on Channel 7's The Morning Show, plus writes horoscopes, Marie Claire Australia and Mamamia, plus other publications and platforms. Her work goes far beyond reading horoscopes. She helps people to uncover their life blueprint, their purpose path, and the unique strengths that they can nurture. Natasha was the first astrologer to deliver horoscopes on primetime news, making world history, revolutionising how astrology is presented by the public. And in this fascinating episode, we dive into who Natasha really is at her core, her beliefs about life, and how astrology works on a much deeper level. She also gave me a personal reading that was incredibly accurate and somewhat exciting, and I can't wait for you to hear it. You are going to soak this one up. If you would like to generate your own free birth chart before we go into this interview with Natasha, you can pause this right now, click the link in the show notes, and you can head over to her website to get your free birth chart so that when she's talking all things astrology, you can check out your chart and see how that relates to you. Okay, we're about to jump in. Before we do, let me ask you to please hit that subscribe button on the Things You Can't Unhear show, whether you are watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, to stay up to date with everything that is coming. Okay, let's go. Welcome, Natasha Weber, to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here chatting with you.
Now, I'm thrilled to have this chat with you because you are someone who is taking astrology mainstream. And I think it's so important for us to tap into things beyond what we can see. And I know our Things You Can't Unhear listeners absolutely love conversations like this. They live for it. In fact, it's something that's super interesting to me and, of course, our listeners.
Yes.
I know you've had an incredible career. You are all over mainstream media sharing astrology stories. But I want to start by not jumping straight into astrology, but I want to learn a little bit more about you at the core and who you are beyond your astrology work, for starters. Who is Natasha Weber, otherwise known as AstroTash, without the astrology?
Oh, okay. Well, this is interesting because normally I'm there to support other people and guide them through their lives and their challenges and their triumphs through astrology, not myself. So this is kind of turning the tables a little bit. Who am I beyond astrology? Well, I guess I'm someone who has always appreciated the rhythms of nature, and then that has led me into astrology. And the reason I say that is because I've always had an affinity with nature and with animals especially. I grew up in the Melbourne Zoo, actually. Both my parents met there and they worked there. And in fact, the newspapers called their relationship the Snake Pit Romance because they both worked in the reptile section at one
Wow.
stage. Yes. So that, I had just the most incredible childhood and upbringing and was constantly around chimpanzees and jaguars and all sorts of beautiful animals. So that is, I guess, the foundation for why I have been drawn into astrology. Also, my mother is clairvoyant and my grandmother is also clairvoyant. So I've always had that interest in what lies beyond the veils. And I would sit there during Mum's seances that she would have as a child and just observe. And so for me, that was like second nature. Other than that, gosh, I had a career in musical theatre. I was a ballet dancer, so I went to the College of the Arts and I was on a ballet scholarship there for about 6 years and then performed with the Victoria State Opera. So quite a diverse life I've had to date. And then, of course, astrology. I started studying astrology about 25 years ago. And I just got to a point in my life where I really was at a crossroads. I'd had my first child and I wanted to do something with my brain because I'd always followed my heart and used my body as an instrument, having been a dancer. But I wanted to study something. And I was tossing up between three different subjects: psychology, naturopathy, and astrology. And I asked and I prayed very hard for a sign. And then I ended up bumping into the Channel 10 astrologer at the time, who was Karen Morgold. Just serendipitously bumped into her. And I saw that as my sign. And she then put me onto my astrology school, the Australian Academy of Astrology and Cosmobiology, bit of a mouthful there. And that then started my astrology journey. And then other than that, I'm a mum. I've got two beautiful children, Jessica and Benjamin. And Jessie's my best friend, and Ben is my heart. I absolutely adore being a mum. Then again, I've got Venus in Cancer, so no surprise there. And I love my Zumba nowadays and my yoga, and again, just reconnecting with nature. That's where I really find my zen, and I find that I come back into myself and ground myself, because being a Gemini, I live very much in my head and I need to get grounded on the earth and with the earth.
What great awareness that you have that around knowing how to ground yourself. I'm so curious. You said your mum's a clairvoyant, and I think you said your grandmother as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Is that something that they practiced for others?
They did do that for friends and friends of friends.
Right.
When the word got out and someone had lost a valuable item or lost someone that they loved. And then these people would turn up on our doorstep and Mum would just have a chat with the other side. She did the automatic writing. So that's when Spirit uses her hand, body as an instrument and writes out the responses. Yeah.
Wow. And does she still practice today?
No, actually, she doesn't. And in fact, she will tell you that she now believes it's an area that we do have to be very mindful of dabbling in. I think that we're entering into realms that we're not really 100% sure how to navigate. And if that's the case, it can be quite dangerous. So with respect for Spirit, Mum has pulled back from that type of, I wouldn't call it work, it's not something she did for payment, but that type of service. Yeah.
I'm curious that you say dangerous. Dangerous in what element, do you think? In what perspective?
Oh, well, my grandmother, who I call Oma, that's Dutch for grandma. So my Oma actually was possessed by a German soldier during one of her seances. I mean, when you think about it, you're connecting with the other side and you're not always entirely sure whether you're bringing in spirit with good intentions or not so good intentions.
What happened? I'm so curious.
I've never really talked about this before, but she started marching around as a
Wow.
soldier. Yeah, yeah.
So interesting. So
Mm.
did the fact that your mother believed that she could connect with spirit and you were seeing that firsthand, did that influence the way that you saw the world, do you think?
Oh, I think definitely. I think that, these types of strong influences, especially in childhood, you can't help but have it color your view of life, of death, and everything in between. So
Mm.
for me, it was just second nature. I didn't have to have that proved to me. And I think a lot of people are skeptical of psychics, of clairvoyance, of astrology, because they haven't really been exposed to anything like that before in their life. And, that person I actually respect, because I think that you do need to have some type of personal experience or desire to be open to that type of thinking, which is, I guess, it's a little bit beyond the norm. Although now there is so much more exposure through social media platforms. So people are, I think, a little more open to it now.
Okay. So what is now your view of life, death, and everything in between? Do you believe we're souls having a human experience or humans having a soulful experience?
Yeah, good question. I definitely believe that we're souls having a human experience. I believe that life here is like a school. I do believe also in reincarnation, and we see this in astrology through the moon's nodes and what we may have brought in from a past life in terms of lessons to learn and traits and characteristics and patterns and habits and so on. So I do believe that we reconnect with our soul family and that we have karmic contracts with them. And I believe that soulmates come in many different forms and shapes and sizes to teach us for the purpose, the higher purpose of our ultimate evolution and soul growth.
I just got butterflies as you were saying all that, which was, yeah, so strange. But I agree with that as well. That's sort of my view
Yeah,
of
it's a
how
confirmation.
the world works. Yeah, possibly. That I love that.
Thank you.
Now, you've spoken about being a shy child growing up, and I've heard you talk about that in other podcast episodes. And
Yeah.
it amazes me because I too was a very shy child and teenager, and now I look at your career, and your career path has been singing, modeling, and now, the face of astrology on mainstream media. And I'm the same. I was this shy child, and now I'm putting myself out there. So, my question to you, I suppose, is: do you feel like it's been your sole purpose and a pathway for you, regardless of you being that shy child and having to sort of really work hard to navigate those feelings of, building your confidence? That you did belong, doing what you do in some way to help other people on a public level?
Oh, yes. Yes. So I was an extremely shy child. I contribute that to my Leo moon. So people with strong Leo in their charts or Leos themselves, they can be, this is a sign associated with confidence, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're born with that confidence. It can simply mean that confidence is a key theme in their life that they have to continually work towards in order to attain. And life will throw you experiences and challenges and lessons to help you attain that goal. So for me, I think that's been very much part of my story, starting off as extremely shy, painfully shy, and now I've been thrust into, this media role, which part of me absolutely loves. Look, I'll admit, part of me loves that spotlight. That's my little Leo moon getting satiated. However, I never hustled for it, and I if anything, I would hold back from putting myself out there. But then life just kind of, as I said, thrust me there and presented those situations. So, yeah, I hope that's answered your question. I think that it has been my fate, I guess, particularly because of how everything has landed, how everything has been presented to me. I think if you continually are knocking on doors that are not opening, you have to stop and question yourself, am I on the right path? Because the universe is perhaps trying to tell you something, whereas if opportunities are being presented to you, then that may well be the way that you need to go, particularly if they're repeating constantly. And all you need to do is step up and say yes. And that's, I guess, all I've done is I've stepped up and said yes. And I'm really proud of myself for having conquered a lot of those fears. I still have them. God, I still have them. But I say yes, and then I do the absolute best I can do. And I think maybe that's why things have moved in the direction that they have for me.
I love that. I find it quite fascinating to navigate what you just said in regards to, things flowing. And obviously, when doors are just opening seamlessly, you're like, this is meant to be, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Then on the opposite side of that, like you said, if you're hustling really hard, working hard, grinding at something, and it's not taking as it's not coming to you as quickly as you hoped it would,
Yeah.
when do you say, it's time to give up, like stop it,
Mm.
or keep going because at the end of all this hustle is something magical? And I do feel like there is something like there's something right in between those when you know which way to go. But what would you say it is? Because you do have to work hard sometimes.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And that's the $64,000 question, isn't it? When do you know to throw in the towel and when do you know just to keep at it that you're being tested and at the end of, the storm is the rainbow and the pot of gold. As Natasha, I would answer you that's something that you have to personally reflect on. And yes, that can be really confusing and really difficult. As AstroTash, I would say, look at the timing, look at the astrology. That's when you look at the transits of the planets and what energy, what cosmic climate you're working with, and when it's likely to potentially end, and what lesson is in it for you. So,
Mm.
I mean, that's where astrology can guide someone, when to redirect their energy and to perhaps be okay with letting something go and when to push through. But on a personal level, like absolutely, I understand that's the challenge. And I guess we have to look into ourselves as well. Because I mean, astrology it's not the be all and end all. It doesn't tell us everything and give us all the answers. There's always free will involved. I'm a big believer in that. And sometimes it's a little hybrid arrangement where we have to really look into ourselves. Really, I think if we look into our heart also, a lot of the answer is there. And we
Yeah.
have to be brutally honest with ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful answer. And I agree with you very much so. Was there a catalyst for you when it came to delving into the astrology world? Was there something in your life that happened that made you want to ask more questions and get more clarity? Because I know when people have astrological readings and they want to delve deeper into their future or their purpose path, that's when they'll go out and seek a reading like this, for example,
Yeah.
or get more curious about astrology. Was there something for you that highlighted the fact or the need for you to delve into this more on a personal level?
The catalyst was probably my first child, Jessica, being born. And I thought, oh, well, all the physical work I've been doing as a dancer, as a model, that's all that I sort of wrote myself off pretty much at a very young age, which was ridiculous. But I thought I'll need to study something now. I need to get serious now. I'm a mum. And so that studying led me there, or the desire to study led me to astrology. So that was the catalyst. But also, once I started studying astrology, my passion purpose became very, very clear right from the get-go. And so I wasn't really searching for answers, but I was driven by my mission, which was to bring the more ancient art and wisdom of astrology into the mainstream. That was my mission because I thought people need this. So I guess I was, rather than serving my own need or desire to answer questions or to find my path, I really felt like the vehicle to help other people do that. And that was so exciting to me. I felt so validated. That was my purpose, to be there for other people. And, I've got my son in the sixth house. So that is the house of service. So in as much as I'm out there, sparkling on media, I'm really all about everyone else. That's what drives me. So
Mm.
hopefully, and that it took me 25 years to get there.
Yeah, I know with myself too, doing this podcast is not for me. I mean, I love it and enjoy it and I get to speak to fascinating people, but it's always been about the impact that I can make and who listens to this and
Yeah.
whose life can be changed as a result of listening to our guests and to the ideas and insights that are shared on this. And I totally get that. And I find it fascinating that we can look at our astrological chart and see that this is out there for us and not the particular job or the role or exactly what it is, but it's really the idea of what lights us up as a human, isn't it?
Yeah, that's beautifully put. And I think, being driven by such an authentic purpose actually, ironically, drives success behind it.
Mm,
Because if you're authentic and you're pursuing that, then everything is in alignment to be successful at what you're doing. If you're driven by ulterior motives such as, even money, fame, trying to please parents, satisfy parents' expectations, the list goes on. I think that's often when success falls short. Yeah.
I would have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about our horoscope. So we all know that our star sign, our standard star sign is one thing. But everyone now talks about moon signs and sun signs. And this is all a little bit new to me. But luckily, I did do my chart on your website before we jumped on. So I've started to learn a little bit about more about that side of my chart. But tell me, so we've got our traditional, so I'm a Scorpio. And then how does the sun sign and the moon sign interact with that as well?
Yes. So, and isn't it wonderful that we're learning that we are so much more than our sun signs or our star signs? That is really the first step. So, the sun sign or your star sign, that represents your basic character. That's how you like to shine your light out into the world. It also represents our ego, how we convey that ego, that masculine principle, the go getter within us all. And, by saying masculine, I'm not referring to gender, I'm referring to kind of yin and yang energy. And the moon sign, though, is a deeper layer to who we are. So if we look at a birth chart, we can see all of our planetary placements. And a birth chart is the snapshot of the heavens at the exact moment of your birth, assuming you're kind of in the middle of that chart, which is a 360-degree wheel or a circle, and you're looking up at the sky and
That's
all the
fascinating.
planets. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And when you think about it, the birth chart is as unique to you as your fingerprint because that moment in time and space that you were born, that exact moment, that has never happened before and that will never ever happen again in the future.
Mm.
So, this is where your birth chart and astrology is so nuanced and so personalized and so individual, which is in contrast to what a lot of the skeptics say, and rightly so, about zodiacs and horoscopes. How can you fit everyone into only 12 categories? And there's merit to that idea, but it's the best that astrologers can do without knowing someone's birth time and more details. So, in terms of the sun and the moon, these are just two layers of who we are and how we might experience life, with the moon being more about our soul, how we give and receive care, how we're likely to nurture, how we are likely to be nurtured, our role as a mother, if that is part of our journey, and our relationship to our own mother. So the moon is that sort of beautiful divine feminine principle. It also reflects and it influences, that's the word I'm looking for. It influences our emotional landscape. So it's going to tell you a little bit about how you are emotionally and how you deal with your emotions.
For anyone listening right now and thinking quickly, I wish I knew what my star, my moon, and my sun sign is before this conversation keeps going. You can pause it right now if you'd like to and jump on AstroTash's website. And there is a free tool on there that allows you to download your free birth chart. So as we continue this conversation, you can be able to look at yours and then relate it back to this conversation, because I think it's so powerful, when you do have that opportunity to really reflect on what you see on that chart, because it can look a little bit like year 12 maths, very confusing.
Yeah.
And a completely different language, but when it's broken down, it really allows us to find out more about ourselves on a deeper level, doesn't it? We often talk on this podcast about stepping into new pathways that bring more joy and meaning to life. But for many of us, those dreams of change get put on hold for family, for work, and for commitments that just pile up. If you've been waiting for the right time to take that next step in your career, or you just want to learn new skills, the sponsor of this episode may just have the answer. With summer semester at Charles Darwin University, you can start small, 1 or 2 subjects online or on campus, and ease into study in a way that's flexible around your life. CDU is Australia's top dual sector uni for graduate outcomes, and their supportive lecturers make it easier to balance study, family, and career. So if you're ready for a new chapter and the chance to finally step into the version of yourself you've been imagining, what are you waiting for? Search CDU Summer or click the link in the episode description while you finish listening to this episode and apply now to start in November.
Yes, absolutely. And I am so proud of this birth chart. Can I just say it's taken me years to create. And a lot of people will go to cafe astrology, to big American companies, but a lot of these charts won't actually offer, some of them do, but some of them don't offer the minutes. And I'm a bit of a stickler for accuracy. So I've worked really hard to make these charts accurate down to the minute. And if people do jump on and get their birth chart, it's completely free, because I really wanted people to understand their planetary placements, because that then helps them to follow along with the astrology and help them to get a deeper insight beyond their sun sign horoscopes. In that free birth chart, they should receive an email after they've seen the chart on my site. And in that email, it explains a little bit about how to read the chart, which has there's the chart itself, of course, and then all of the planetary placements and the houses listed below. So it's easy to read, because I think it's a bit difficult when you receive a chart and you've got all these symbols and signs and numbers and you don't really know what they mean. Yeah.
Now, you did say time and location is one really critical part of this. If someone doesn't have their exact time of birth, does that make a huge impact on their reading?
Yes and no. But yes is the general answer. It really depends on the actual year, date, and time. Because, and I can say for you, for example, Maritza, I've calculated your chart and noticed that your ascendant or rising sign is at the very final degree of Libra. Now, I know you were a little general about the time of your birth, and so I've gone along and adjusted the time. And actually, if you were born 2 minutes after you said you possibly were, the ascendant or rising sign switches from Libra to Scorpio. So it makes that, in that case, it makes a huge difference. However, if you don't know your time of birth and the ascendant or even the moon sign, because these are faster moving points, and they will change signs a lot faster. So they can be very variable. I do explain this in the email that if your planet or point is at the end or the very beginning of a sign and you're not sure about your birth time, it could be in either or, the next zodiac sign or the one before it. But if it's kind of in the middle, then you can be sure that it's stayed at least in that sign for that particular date of birth. Beyond that, looking at your sun sign, unless you're right on the cusp, and that's another conversation, but unless you're on the cusp, you're going to know your sun sign, and the other planets move more slowly. So you're going to at least know that your Mercury is in Sagittarius, for example, or your Venus is in Cancer. So at least you will likely know your planetary zodiac sign.
I find that fascinating, and I have spoken to my parents. Mum, Dad, what time was I born? I need the exact minute. Why, Maritza? Because I need to do my astrology birth chart. And Mum could not remember. Dad told me 6 a.m. So I'm pretty certain it's not 6 a.m. on the nose. And I find it fascinating that you said that about the ascendant sign. When I do read and have my charts read to me through astrology, I do feel like they're accurate based on the information that I get back.
Right.
If I was wrong about the time, do you think that wouldn't resonate with me so much?
And look, there's a technique called rectification that astrologers can apply to help you figure out what your birth time is to get this information.
Oh.
It's a very complex technique, and it requires calculating a lot of charts and charts of all of your family members and charts of milestone events in your life. So there is a lot of work involved in that, but it's possible, and there are some astrologers that specialize in this. Beyond that, you could speak to an astrologer and you have the option, there are a couple of options. So for you, your rising sign or ascendant would either be in Libra or Scorpio. So we could have a chat about, what character traits that would convey, and then you can get a pretty good idea from that.
That makes sense. I find it really interesting too. A couple of months ago, I was walking down the street in Coolum Beach, actually, here on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and there was a beautiful jewelry pendant stand that was on the side of the footpath, and she was waving people down. Would you like to know what your moon was like when on the day that you were born? And she was doing like mini readings, and then they were selling beautiful moon pendants which depicted exactly what the moon looked like the day you were born. It turns out I did my two daughters and myself, and then my husband, I did all of us. They allowed me to find out what our moons were when we were born. My husband was born on a full moon, which didn't surprise me actually. What does it mean when someone was born on a full moon? Is there depth behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I love to look at in a birth chart, beyond your sun sign, moon sign, and planetary placements. There is the lunar phase that you were born. And this contributes to our personality, characters, and traits, and our experiences. And it has a real connection to our soul path, our karmic path as well, and our soul development. So, full moon people are people who generally see life as it really is, life and people as they really are, because their perceptions are highly illuminated. There can be some internal division between the masculine and feminine principle in a person with a full, because when the moon is full, the sun and the moon are directly opposite each other. So this can create contrasting energies. So by that I mean they might oscillate or find it a bit challenging to find the balance between being assertive and being, sitting back and surrendering. But yeah, I love full moon people. They are bright and literally fully illuminated. Whereas new moon people are people who have this sort of wide-eyed enthusiasm about the world, and they see everything as being a grand possibility. In my book, actually, I've written a whole chapter and gone in depth into each and every lunar phase, particularly describing the soul purpose and type of path that we might choose to lead depending on our lunar phase.
Would you say someone born on a full moon as opposed to someone born on a new moon would be someone who's an old soul if they were born on a
No, I would say that the old soul would have to go to the balsamic moon. So some people might call that the dark moon. It's the phase just before, just prior to a new moon. And in real life, this phase, which occurs once a month, this is a beautiful time of letting go. It's when the moon is in shadow, approaching that brand new, blossoming, that brand new phase, and things are going quiet, and we're reflecting and we're deciding on what we want to take into that new cycle with us. So, in terms of being born during that period, that is a personality that is quiet, receptive, highly sensitive. These people are actually often psychics, but they're that old soul that, or like I liken it to the wise woman or the old crone who has been through the entire lunar cycle karmically and is now reaching the end, or enlightenment, if you like to call it. And, there's so much wisdom there from other lifetimes, or in fact, a lot of people born during a balsamic lunar phase, they do have a lot of intense experiences in this life, and for the purpose of accumulating that wisdom. And the best way that that can be channeled is through imparting that wisdom and those lessons to children, to other people, to people in need. They make excellent counselors as well, and caretakers.
I think everyone now wants to know if they were born on a balsamic lunar phase. How do we find that out? Is that part of a reading, a traditional reading or birth chart?
You can, absolutely, if you were to speak to an astrologer, but not everyone can afford that. I would suggest for people listening to this podcast, go onto my website, get a copy of your birth chart, which is free. And then actually in my book, I teach you how a very basic and easy way to figure it out, depending on how many zodiac signs separate your sun and moon. And that's how we can determine what phase of the moon it is. So when the moon and the sun are in the exact same zodiac sign, that's going to be a new moon. And of course, I would look at the degrees to be absolutely exact. But if you don't know that and you can't have a consultation, then that is kind of a simple way to help you figure it out in a basic sense.
So exciting. Okay. Now we had a little bit of a play with my birth chart. You having a look at that sort of off the cuff. What would you say a soul purpose was of mine? And do we have multiple soul purposes?
Okay. Oh gosh. So yeah, so it's just interesting about your ascendant and rising sign. I'm looking down at your chart that I've calculated here because I scribble a whole bunch of notes on there. And this is something important also to say, that with an astrologer, just working purely with astrology, that always requires calculating a chart. We don't just feel things or know things. That would be clairvoyance or psychic ability. So I just work purely with the charts. So we do need to calculate those and actually yes, work from some sort of structure. So okay, so the rising sign or ascendant sign, that's in either Libra or Scorpio, and that's how other people see you. But it's very much part of your personality as well. It's the personality that you project. And it's like, I guess it's like the starting point or the outer shell of your character. So given that it's in Libra, this is so interesting as well. If it was in the 29 degrees of Libra, depending on your time of birth, this would say to me that partnerships, healthy partnerships, are a really integral part of your life. You're someone who would be extremely attractive, which is absolutely correct. That Venus would be your chart ruler if Libra was your rising sign. If it was in Scorpio, this would give you an intensity to your personality and a depth. It can be quite wonderful for bringing themes and discussions and topics to light to help other people navigate that, because Scorpio likes to dig deep. And that leads me to your sun sign, though. Your sun sign is in the first house. So you were definitely born to shine in a public sense. But what's interesting, so that's a very visible sun sign, having it in the first house. I would say, okay, this person could potentially be famous or definitely out in the public eye. Definitely like to sort of shine your light in a big way. And yet, given that it's in Scorpio, this is the opposite energy. And when we get opposing energies like this, it doesn't negate them. It actually just provides the balance. So I would say to you, I would advise you that yes, you need to nurture that desire to shine bright out in a public way, but then you need to honor that Scorpio energy and go into solitude in order to replenish your energy. That's really important for you.
Gosh, that totally sums me up.
Yeah.
I do put myself out there, obviously, with the podcast and lots of live events and speaking. And when I do that, the following day, I'm absolutely physically, mentally, spiritually exhausted. I thrive when I'm there, but I need to retreat afterwards and recollect myself, I think.
Yeah, and that's how you will best rejuvenate your energy. You know, other people rejuvenate in social settings. They come alive there and that gives them energy. But no, for you, and also, you know, getting out to nature would be a beautiful thing too. You could join me. We could go for nature walks.
I'm up for that. I'm definitely up for that.
And so, looking at your chart in the first house still, you've actually got a packed full house, which is so interesting. You've got Uranus, Venus, and Mercury all there in what's called a stellium, which basically means a cluster of planets. And this just makes these planets more prominent. So, just quickly, I'd say there's a great deal of independence about you. You can be a bit of a rebel and you like to definitely dance to the beat of your own drum. Authenticity is super important to you. I don't think you could pursue anything that, you know, that clashed with your morals or who you really are at your core. It also gives you a certain level of popularity and you're well recognized. And having Venus rising, how gorgeous is that for looks and appearance and attractiveness? Lucky you. And I mean, I'm obviously going through this very, very quickly. But you've also got Mercury in the first house. So you are a born communicator. I often see Mercury or Gemini placed prominently. I've done a lot of readings for radio presenters, TV personalities, and they usually have a prominent Mercury, as do you. But yours is in Sagittarius. So this gives you those expansive ideas. You love to discuss different philosophies. I mean, I guess the fact that you're doing this podcast is testament to that. But again, you need to live by a strong moral code. You do have very strong beliefs and they may be tested sometimes. And you might need to be a little bit flexible with those. But you are that born communicator. In terms of your midheaven, this is at the zenith of your chart. This represents your career. Beyond what we do as a bread and butter job, though, this is more to do with your vocation. So for you, that is very much about empathy and roles that help you nurture other people, particularly women, because your midheaven is ruled by the moon, which is the divine feminine principle. And then you have the moon in Pisces, which is what a soft, beautiful, gentle heart you have. It is connecting with the South Node in Pisces. And so, in terms of your soul path, you have the North Node in Virgo. I think you had a spiritual previous life. and you're bringing all of that knowledge into this life. You may have been, you might have been a witch, or you might have even been a psychic, or you might have even been a caretaker. If we want to get a bit more practical, using those heightened sensitivities and concern for other people in those ways. But in this lifetime, it's your job to sort of perfect those qualities. So those are gifts that you come into this lifetime with.
Yeah.
Sensitivities and being really attuned to other people's needs. But it's about now, with this North Node in Virgo, which is the sign of the perfectionist, and really ticking off the details, crossing your T's and dotting your I's and all of that. It's time to really hone those skills and ground them, because Virgo is an earth sign. So rather than just letting your talents steer you, you've got to direct those talents and make them materialize into something tangible, if that makes sense.
It does. It actually all makes a lot of sense.
Oh, good. Oh, good. A really beautiful, you've got a great chart actually, but a really beautiful connection is between the moon and Jupiter, which is opposite in your chart. And that means, and it involves the 11th house and the 5th house. So this is great for your relationship with your children, your daughters. And it also means help, like almost angelic help that seems to come from beyond. Because I call Jupiter our cosmic guide or planetary guardian angel, cosmic fairy godmother. So this indicates that in your lifetime, you will get a lot of help and support from other people. So if you're feeling lost, really look to who can help you out, because it's definitely there. It can be through large organizations or, individuals as well. It takes me an hour and a half to do a full reading, but that's just the very basic things. But I also had a little look at what was happening with the planets and how it was triggering your chart currently. You do have Mars in the 12th house at the moment, and that will happen once every 2.5 years. But when that happens, I would just caution you against divulging too much to people who would like to see you come undone.
Right.
So just being mindful of that. There is also Jupiter, which I discussed before about being our planetary guardian angel, hitting your zenith of your chart, your midheaven. So this is fantastic for luck, expansion, growth, huge success in your career. So this is a beautiful time to launch something, to put yourself out there in a big way, to really walk through any doors that open for you. And this will last for several months, and it only happens once every 12 years.
Wow, wowza.
Yeah, so this is really exciting for you. You also happen to have Venus traveling through your 10th house, which again brings in, Venus is a beneficial planet. So this brings in a lot of popularity. It could bring in more money and fantastic connections with females as well. Females, particularly, female colleagues, networking with other women. And really interesting, we've got a lunar eclipse coming up, a total lunar eclipse actually, which is also called a blood moon. And this is on September 8 in Australia.
Is that a September 8 in Australia? Is that a very rare occurrence?
A total lunar eclipse is, yes.
Yeah.
And eclipse season happens though twice a year, usually twice a year. And look, eclipses can create chaos. And the reason that they have earned that reputation is because they're instigators of fate. So they're connected to our destiny and our fate. And often we want to go in one direction, but destiny wants to take us in another direction. So the more we battle against what's being presented and what's happening naturally to us, the more chaotic it's going to feel when it's an eclipse. Now, the totality or the level of totality of an eclipse, so we we might have a partial eclipse, and that's not going to be as intense as a total eclipse. But this one coming up on September 8th is a total eclipse, and it's a lunar eclipse, and it's in Pisces. So it's triggering your moon sign and also your nodes, which we talked about before, being about your, karma, what you brought in from a past life and what you need to work towards. So I suspect that all of this is going to hit a bit of a climax in the next, well, might also be feeling it building right now, but this is likely to last for a good 2 weeks beyond that September 8 date. But it could be, given that a lunar eclipse, it's also a full moon, and full moons bring projects and relationships off sometimes to fruition or to completion. So it can be about an ending. It can be about letting something go before you can step into a new beginning. It could be about the culmination, the finality of something or someone that's important to you. And this is in your 5th house. So it may have to do with a creative project, or even with your children. Maybe your children are experiencing something like this as well. So that's interesting that that's landing in your 5th house there.
It's all incredibly interesting. When there are tricky times that do show up in astrology readings, what's the best way that we can, I don't know, what's the word for it, prepare for those situations? If you highlight that and you can see that from your readings and that's delivered to you as information.
Yeah, and one thing I never do when I'm giving a reading is just deliver the bad news without some sort of a solution or remedy or way to work with it.
Mm.
And as I said before, the astrology is just the cosmic climate we have to work with. It's not a prediction necessarily that's set in stone. We can still work with that energy, even difficult, challenging energy. We can decide how we respond. So I liken it to, if it's a rainy, stormy, horrible day out there, whether or not we take an umbrella outside, that's our choice. So I guess in knowing the astrology and getting some guidance, and I mean, to get specific guidance around specific astrological influences, that's where you need some type of astrology reading or to be following along some astrology page. That's going to give you an insight as to what areas of life and how it's going to impact you. But how you deal with it is down to you, really. I don't think we get out of this lifetime without without the consequences of our choices. Yeah.
I'm curious. So you've got creative projects on the go. You've written a book. Do you look at the right time to launch these based on what your chart is saying?
Absolutely. I do. Sometimes I wish I didn't know. I'm actually preparing for surgery, an upcoming surgery.
Okay.
And yes, and I'm trying to find a date. So this is elective in a way. And it's hard because there's never going to be a perfect date, particularly with surgery, for example, because you're always going to see some type of maybe violent energy in the chart, because let's face it, it's not an airy fairy experience that you're having. So you're going to look back at that event and say, oh yes, I can see that that person was having surgery on that day because Mars was squaring the moon. Mars rules surgery in astrology. So that's kind of one example, but I definitely time launches and real life events for my own life using the astrology. But yes, in fact, I'd recommend to astrologers to employ another astrologer to get an objective point of view, because sometimes that can be really helpful.
That's actually a really good idea, because I could see that it would get overwhelming and you're like, okay, hang on. No, not yet. Yep. No.
Yeah. And you're calculating a lot of charts
And especially when you don't have a lot of control over it as well, if it's a medical procedure like what you've got going on too. So, yeah.
And and with people launching things, and I often get DMs saying, oh, I need to leave my job, but Mercury's in retrograde, and that's not usually a good time to make a massive decision like that, or set an ultimatum, or deal with any sort of contractual issues. But then I do believe we have to also live our lives. Sometimes it's just not sensible, it's not smart to delay. And in that case, I think it's about surrendering to, okay, well, this needs to be the astrological climate in where I'm going to make this move. And that is happening for a reason. So with Mercury retrograde, for example, it's not the end of the world. And what it means is maybe you do have to make that big move at that time, but then it might just mean you have to come back and renegotiate something in the contract. And there might be a do-over, or there might be a little frustration or a little glitch associated with it, but you are meant to have that experience. So it's all kind of meant to be.
I have absolutely loved every moment of what you've said today. And I know that you've got some brilliant resources on your website. You've got your Instagram page, which you share continuously on, about collective energies as well, which I think is super fascinating. You've got your predictions for 2025 that have been quite accurate. I know 2026 is like coming up very soon, and this year has just absolutely flown for some reason. But tell us a little bit about your book too, and how we can use that as a tool to delve into this world a little bit more if we're super curious after listening to you today.
Yeah, thank you. The book's called Your Celestial Compass, Astrology for Self-Discovery and Empowerment. And it's really meant to open people's eyes and hearts to the fact that they are more than their sun sign. That said, I dive really deep into every zodiac sign because I think that often our sun signs are just, they fall into that stereotypical interpretation. So I really dive deep and we go a little bit beyond the cookie cutter zodiac sign interpretations. But then I also explore every moon sign and what the moon means in astrology, every lunar phase, and how to work out what your natal lunar phase is and what it means for you and your soul path. So the first sort of couple of parts of the book are really about self-discovery according to your planetary placements. And then I do explain a little bit about how to navigate supermoons and eclipses. But then the final part of the book is you don't even need to know your birth chart, just your age. And I talk about the planetary cycles and what to expect and how to use them to your best advantage according to every age in your life.
Oh, absolutely fascinating. I think there's so much to jump into here on a deeper level, and you can uncover so much about yourself. If someone's listening now and thinking, is a reading for me, what advice do you have for them?
Definitely, I find that people come to a reading when they're absolutely meant to. At the moment, I'm not doing one-on-one readings because I'm doing a lot of the media work and I'm doing other things as well, other projects. But I think if they feel that that resonates with them, if they're looking for answers, then I would just suggest to keep in mind that they do have free will, but understanding what the planetary cycles and how they're affecting their birth chart can really help them navigate those uncertain times and those challenges and give them a sense of timing around things as well. When is the best time? When is not such a good time? But also if they're going through grief or confusion or loss, helping to shine a light at the end of the tunnel and understand when that time might be wrapping up as well.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Now, Natasha, I ask everyone this question at the end of all of our interviews based on the title of the podcast, Things You Can't Unhear. Has there ever been a moment for you where you heard something or told something that you simply could not unhear?
Look, I'm just going to have to bring this back to the astrology. There was a really profound pivotal moment for me when I saw my birth chart for the first time. And that for me just crystallized everything that I knew about myself, and perhaps felt a level of shame or embarrassment or confusion. And seeing my birth chart, so it wasn't necessarily something that I heard, but I guess I was speaking it in my own head.
Yeah.
And I just understood who I was and what my mission was in this lifetime. And I think once you know that, once you see that, once you understand that, the path ahead becomes so clear. You can't unknow it because you feel it and it resonates in your core. Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much.
Thank you.
Natasha, AstroTash, thank you for everything that you've shared today. Like I mentioned, I know all of you are going to be wanting to tap into Natasha's work at a deeper level. So jump on to the link in the bio where you can get your own birth chart done for free. And then on that website, you'll be able to find all the other links to AstroTash and the incredible work that she does. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Maritza. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for giving astrology a platform.
And I'm so grateful to be able to have received a mini reading from you as well. So huge, huge gratitude for you for doing that as well. Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favourite listening platform.